The news of the rescue spread even faster than the original First Contact story. A primitive species with no advanced weapons had tracked, intercepted, and completely disabled a Drellic Syndicate vessel in less than 3 days. The Syndicate had terrorized this region of space for centuries. The humans had treated them like a minor inconvenience. The High Council reconvened an emergency session to discuss what everyone was now calling the human question. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from across the hegemony, all wanting to witness the debate. Lara and her crew were summoned once again to stand before the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy. "We have watched your actions with great interest," Casix announced. Her crystalline form glowed with shifting patterns of light that the humans had learned to associate with deep thought. "You tracked your captured crew members using methods we do not fully understand. You predicted the behavior of criminals with remarkable accuracy. Your people sabotaged a ship from the inside, using nothing but their bare hands and determination. Explain how this is possible." Lara stepped forward. "Our species has faced challenges for our entire existence. We developed skills to survive in a world that wanted us dead. Pattern recognition, adaptability, social manipulation, improvisation. These are not special abilities. They are just what humans do. We've been doing them for so long that we do not even think about it anymore." A council member from a species of telepathic beings spoke next. "We have examined your minds during your time here. We expected to find simple thoughts and primitive emotions. Instead, we found complexity that rivals our own oldest of civilizations. Your brains are not powerful by galactic standards, but they are dense. You pack more processing into less space than almost any species we have encountered. Evolution on our world was competitive," Grace explained. "We had to be smart or we died. Our ancestors who could not think quickly were eaten by predators. The ones who survived passed on their intelligence. After millions of years, this is the result." The Vrax council member who had tested Danny earlier rose to speak. "I have studied your rescue operation in detail. Your crew members who were captured did not simply wait for rescue. They gathered intelligence, made allies among their captors, and actively sabotaged the vessel holding them. Each one acted independently, but their actions complemented each other perfectly. This requires either advanced planning or something else. We call it common sense," Danny said. "When you are in trouble, you do not just sit there. You look for ways out. You assess your resources, identify opportunities, and take action. It is basic survival." "Basic survival," the Vrax repeated slowly. "Your species considers this basic. For most civilizations, such thinking takes generations to develop. Your people do it instinctively." Casix floated down from her elevated position to hover directly in front of the human crew. Her crystalline shell hummed with energy. "I have lived for 12,000 years," she said. "I have watched this galaxy evolve from a collection of warring empires into the ordered civilization you see today. For millennia, we have maintained stability through careful management and gradual progress. Change comes slowly because we prefer it that way. Surprises are dangerous." She paused, her light shifting to warmer tones. "But stability has become stagnation. Our member species have grown comfortable. They follow established patterns because patterns are safe. Innovation has slowed. Creativity has diminished. We have become very good at maintaining what exists, but very poor at imagining what could be. You think we can change that?" Lavra asked. "I think you already have. In 1 week, you have disrupted more assumptions about galactic civilization than any event in the past 1,000 years. You have shown us that our understanding of psychology is incomplete. You have demonstrated that primitive does not mean incapable. You have reminded us that the universe can still surprise us." The council conferred briefly among themselves. When Kasich spoke again, There was something like excitement in her voice. "We have decided. Humanity will be granted full membership in the hegemony, not as a junior species with probationary status, but as equals. This is unprecedented. No civilization has ever been elevated to full membership without centuries of observation. But you are unprecedented." Lavra felt her heart racing but kept her voice steady. "We are honored, High Arbiter. But why? What do you want from us? We want you to continue being what you are. We want human advisors assigned to hegemony departments. We want your perspective on problems that we have been unable to solve. We want you to look at our ancient systems and tell us what you see. Your minds work differently than ours. You notice things we overlook. You question assumptions we take for granted. This is valuable beyond measure." Tony scratched his head. "You want us to tell you how to run your galaxy? We want you to help us remember how to grow," Cassix clarified. "We have spent so long maintaining stability that we have forgotten how to change. Your species changes constantly. You adapt, evolve, and transform yourselves with every generation. This frightened us at first. Now we see it as a gift." The ceremony that followed was brief by galactic standards, but meaningful. Each human crew member received a symbolic mark of citizenship. Their names were entered into the great records, alongside species that had been civilized since before humans had learned to make fire. The Wanderer was officially registered as a diplomatic vessel of both Earth and the hegemony. Afterward, Cassix invited Laura for a private conversation in her personal chambers. The room was simple by galactic standards, containing only a few crystalline structures that seemed to respond to Cassix's moods. "I want to ask you something," Cassix said. "Something I have been wondering since we first met." "Go ahead." "In all our ancient history, we have cataloged thousands of species. We have records of their first contact reactions, their cultural development, their rise and sometimes their fall. Most follow predictable patterns. But you do not. You act as if the universe owes you no explanations. You face impossible situations and simply deal with them. Where does this come from?" Lavra thought about the question for a long moment. "I think it comes from our history. We have never had anyone to protect us. No ancient guardians, no cosmic benefactors, no guaranteed survival. Everything we have, we built ourselves. Every challenge we faced, we overcame alone. We learned very early that the universe does not care about us. It does not hate us either. It simply is. Once you accept that, everything becomes manageable." Cassix's form pulsed with contemplative light. "You have a saying on your world. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. This encapsulates your philosophy." "It does. We dream of wonderful things, but we plan for terrible ones. We imagine the best possible outcomes while preparing for the worst possible disasters. This duality is fundamental to who we are." "It is remarkable," Cassix admitted, "and a little terrifying. A species that is never surprised, never overwhelmed, never paralyzed by fear. You will change everything, you know. Simply by being yourselves, you will transform this galaxy." Lavra smiled. "Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" "I genuinely do not know, but I am eager to find out." They talked for hours more. Two beings from opposite ends of existence, finding common ground in their love of questions without easy answers. When Lavra finally returned to the Wanderer, her crew was waiting. They had work to do. A message needed to be sent to Earth, informing humanity that they were now members of a galactic community. Preparations needed to be made for the arrival of hegemony representatives. A new chapter of human history was beginning. Danny looked out at the stars visible through the viewport. "So, what happens now?" Laura stood beside him and watched the lights of 1,000 civilizations twinkling in the darkness. "Now we do what humans have always done. We explore. We learn. We adapt. And when the galaxy throws something at us that we have never seen before, we look at it and say, yeah, that seems about right. Behind them, the ancient machinery of the hegemony continued its endless work, maintaining a civilization that had existed for 50,000 years. But something had changed. Something new had entered the equation. And for the first time in millennia, the future looked genuinely uncertain. That the galaxy did not know it yet, but the age of predictability was over. The humans had arrived, and they were not even a little bit surprised. The news about the strange new species spread across the hegemony faster than light itself. Within days, every major information network was discussing the humans who had stumbled into galactic civilization and reacted with nothing more than mild curiosity. Some found it amusing, others found it disturbing, and a few saw an opportunity. The Drellic Syndicate operated in the shadows of the hegemony, dealing in illegal goods, stolen technology, and rare specimens. Their leader, a being known only as the Collector, had built a fortune by acquiring things that others considered impossible to obtain. When reports of the humans reached him, he immediately recognized their value. A species immune to existential terror would be worth a fortune to the right buyers. The Syndicate moved quickly. Their agents had been watching the humans since their arrival at Station Korath 7, waiting for the right moment. That moment came when the Wanderer crew was granted temporary quarters on the station, while the High Council deliberated their fate. Grace. Liu woke to the sound of her door sliding open in the middle of the night cycle. Before she could react, a device was pressed against her neck, and everything went dark. Ben Torres met the same fate in his room 3 doors down. Amy Dunn, the youngest member of the crew at only 24 years old, fought back briefly before being subdued. The Syndicate agents were professionals. They left no traces. Laura discovered the kidnapping 6 hours later when Grace failed to appear for their scheduled breakfast meeting. A quick search of the station revealed the truth. 3 crew members were missing, and security recordings showed nothing useful. The Syndicate had been thorough. The hegemony officials were sympathetic, but not optimistic. The Drellic Syndicate had been a problem for centuries. They operated across dozens of star systems and had never been successfully dismantled. Recovering the humans would require resources that the hegemony was unwilling to commit for 3 individuals from an unknown species. Lavra gathered her remaining crew in the Wanderer's small conference room. Danny, Tony, and Megan sat around the table with expressions ranging from worried to angry. The hegemony is not going to help us, Lavra announced. They have given us permission to handle this ourselves, but they clearly expect us to fail. Then we prove them wrong, Danny said firmly. We are not leaving our people behind. Tony pulled up a schematic on the room's display screen. I have been analyzing the station's communication logs. The Syndicate uses encrypted channels, but their encryption is based on mathematical principles we understand. I think I can break it. Megan nodded. I have been studying the Syndicate's known operations. They follow patterns. Predictable patterns. If we can figure out where they take high-value captives, we can narrow down the search area. Do it, Lavra ordered. We have no time to waste. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. Tony worked through the station's communication systems with a determination that bordered on obsession. He eventually found fragments of Syndicate transmissions hidden in routine traffic signals. The encryption took another 4 hours to crack, but when he finished, they had a destination. The Syndicate ship was heading for a black market station, an unregulated system 3 days away. Meanwhile, Megan analyzed everything the hegemony had on record about Syndicate operations. She identified behavioral patterns in their leadership, weaknesses in their organizational structure, and psychological profiles of known members. By the time they launched, she had a complete picture of who they were dealing with. The Wanderer left Station Korath 7 without fanfare. The hegemony tracked their departure but made no move to stop them. They were genuinely curious to see what would happen. On the Syndicate ship, the 3 captured humans were proving to be difficult cargo. Grace Liu had spent the first day making friends with a guard named Threx, a young alien who had joined the Syndicate to pay off family debts. She listened to his problems, offered advice, and slowly gained his trust. She never asked for help directly. She simply planted seeds of doubt about his employers. Then Torres had a different approach. Every time they moved him from one location to another, he memorized the path. He counted steps, noted the sounds of different machinery, and built a mental map of the ship's interior. By the second day, he knew the vessel better than most of the crew. Amy Dunn was underestimated by everyone. She was small and young and looked harmless. The guards barely watched her. This was a mistake. Amy had grown up taking things apart and putting them back together. Her father had been an engineer, and she had inherited his talent. When they left her alone in her cell, she examined every surface, every panel, every piece of equipment. She found a maintenance access point behind a wall panel and used a hairpin to disable 3 of the 5 navigation backup systems before anyone noticed. The Syndicate captain was not concerned when the backups failed. Ships develop problems all the time. He ordered repairs and continued toward the destination. He had no idea that his cargo was slowly taking his ship apart from the inside. The Wanderer caught up to the Syndicate vessel on the second day of the chase. Tony had pushed the engines harder than recommended, burning through fuel reserves that would take months to replace. But they arrived in time. "They know we are here," Megan reported as they closed the distance. "They are trying to jump to hyperspace, but something is wrong with their navigation systems." Laura smiled grimly. "That would be Amy. Ganny, take us in. Tony, prepare for boarding." The Syndicate ship was larger than the Wanderer, but built for stealth rather than combat. Its weapons were defensive, designed to discourage pursuit rather than engage in direct battle. The Wanderer was not armed at all, but that did not matter. They were not planning to fight. Tony had modified their docking system during the chase. Instead of requesting permission, they simply attached to the Syndicate hull and cut their way through with emergency breach tools. By the time the Syndicate crew responded, the humans were already inside. The rescue was chaos, but organized chaos. Danny moved through the corridors with a speed that caught the Syndicate guards completely off guard. He had studied the ship's layout using the intercepted schematics and knew exactly where to go. Megan followed, using her understanding of Syndicate psychology to predict where guards would be positioned. Laura found Grace first. The door to her cell was unlocked because Threx had decided that maybe the Syndicate was not worth his loyalty after all. Grace hugged Laura briefly before leading them toward Ben's location. Ben met them halfway. He had escaped on his own after Amy's sabotage triggered a ship-wide alarm that distracted the guards. He was calm and collected despite having spent 2 days as a prisoner. Amy was the last to be recovered. They found her in an engineering section surrounded by disassembled components. She had not only disabled the navigation backups, but had also shut down the main engines. The Syndicate ship was dead in space. "I figured you would come for us," Amy said with a shrug. "I wanted to make sure they could not run." The entire rescue took less than 20 minutes. The Syndicate captain tried to negotiate, then threaten, then beg. Laura ignored him. They returned to the Wanderer and detached from the crippled vessel, leaving the criminals stranded for hegemony authorities to collect Dot as they jumped back into hyperspace. Grace looked at the stars streaming past the viewport. "They underestimated us. They always do," Laura replied. "We're small and young and new to all of this. They see weakness. They do not see what we really are. And what are we?" Ben asked. Laura thought about it for a moment. "We are survivors." We have always been survivors. Our world made us that way. And apparently, that is exactly what the galaxy needs. Behind them, the Syndicate ship drifted in the darkness, its crew wondering how a primitive species had dismantled their operation so completely. They would never fully understand. Humans were not supposed to be this adaptable. But humans had never cared much about what they were supposed to be. The throne world of Valanthi Prime was a planet covered entirely in cities. From orbit, it looked like a glittering jewel wrapped in lights that never dimmed. The Wanderer crew arrived aboard a Hegemony transport ship after 3 days of travel through hyperspace corridors that were older than human civilization itself. They were escorted to the Grand Chamber of the High Council by guards from 6 different species, each one more impressive than the last. The Grand Chamber was a dome so large that clouds actually formed near its ceiling. Floating platforms carried representatives from across the galaxy to their designated positions. At the center of the chamber stood a raised dais where the 12 seats of the High Council formed a semicircle facing a single spot on the floor. That spot was where the humans now stood, feeling very small and very watched. The council members were unlike anything the humans had seen before. Some were physical beings of flesh and bone or chitin and scale. Others seemed to exist as energy patterns or crystalline structures or things that had no easy name. The most striking was High Arbiter Cassix, the leader of the council. Cassix appeared to be a being of pure light contained within a shell of living crystal that floated several feet above her seat. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Humans of Earth, you have been brought before this council to answer questions regarding your nature and intentions. Administrator Yeleth's report has caused considerable debate among us. We wish to understand you better. Lavra stepped forward slightly. We are happy to answer any questions you have, High Arbiter. Then let us begin, Cassix said. Explain to us why you showed no fear when you discovered our existence. Every species in galactic history has reacted to first contact with strong emotions. Terror, awe, aggression, submission. You displayed none of these. Why? Lavra considered her words carefully. Our species evolved on a dangerous world. We faced predators larger and stronger than us. We survived ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, and each other. From the very beginning, we learned that the universe was not designed with our comfort in mind. When we looked at the stars, we assumed they were full of things greater than ourselves. Finding out we were right was not shocking. It was expected. A council member who appeared to be a massive reptilian creature covered in golden scales spoke next. You say you expected to find other life, but expecting and experiencing are different things. Knowledge of the galaxy should have overwhelmed your primitive minds. Danny shook his head politely. With respect, we have been imagining this for a very long time. Our storytellers have created millions of scenarios about meeting alien life. We have depicted peaceful federations and hostile empires. We have imagined beings of light and darkness, creatures of silicon and carbon, intelligences vast and cold, and things that dream in the spaces between stars. By the time we actually met you, we had already lived through every possibility in our imaginations. The reptilian council member made a rumbling sound that might have been amusement. You claim your fiction prepared you for reality. Fiction is how humans process fear, Grace explained. We take the things that scare us and we tell stories about them. By doing so, we make them familiar. The unknown becomes known. The terrifying becomes manageable. It is how we have survived everything our world threw at us. Cassix's crystalline form pulsed with shifting colors. We have decided to test this claim. You will be shown recordings from our archives. These are images and sounds that have driven other species to madness. If you truly have inoculated yourselves against cosmic fear through imagination, then these tests will prove it. The lights in the chamber dimmed, and a massive holographic display activated in the center of the room. The first recording showed a war between two ancient civilizations. Ships the size of moons tore each other apart with weapons that split atoms and collapsed space itself. Planets cracked open and spilled their molten cores into the void. Billions of lives were extinguished in seconds. The humans watched in silence. When it ended, Tony raised his hand. What was that weapon that folded space like that? The physics behind it must be fascinating. The council members exchanged glances, but said nothing. The next recording began. This one showed creatures from a dimension that existed alongside normal space. They were vast and incomprehensible, shapes that twisted through reality in ways that hurt to look at. Their presence alone caused matter to decay and minds to shatter. The recording was from a species that had accidentally opened a doorway to their realm. The civilization had lost it less than a year afterward. Megan tilted her head and studied the images. We have stories about things like that. We call them eldritch horrors. Some of our most famous writers specialized in describing exactly this kind of being. The third recording showed a weapon capable of destroying stars. It was demonstrated on an inhabited system as punishment for rebellion against some long-forgotten empire. The star went dark and cold in minutes. 8 billion people froze in the sudden night. Ben looked uncomfortable, but his voice remained steady. That is horrible. Truly horrible. But our own history has similar tragedies. We have killed each other in wars that serve no purpose. We have committed terrible acts against our own kind. The scale is different, but the darkness is familiar. Cassix ended the recordings, and the lights returned to normal. Her crystalline form floated down from her seat until she hovered directly in front of Lara. I have lived for 12,000 years, Cassix said quietly. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have witnessed the birth of stars and the death of worlds. In all that time, I have never encountered a species that could witness the horrors of the universe and respond with curiosity rather than despair. One of the council members, a predatory species called the Vrax, rose from his seat and descended to floor level. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with powerful limbs covered in thick black fur and a face full of teeth designed for tearing flesh. He stalked toward Danny with obvious aggressive intent. You claim to be unafraid, the Vrax growled. Let us see if that is true when facing a real threat. He loomed over Danny, every aspect of his body language designed to intimidate. He snarled and displayed his claws. His muscles tensed as if preparing to strike. Danny looked up at him calmly. You want to arm wrestle or something? I should warn you, I have pretty good grip strength for my size. The Vrax froze. His aggressive posture slowly relaxed into confusion. He looked back at the other council members as if seeking guidance. You do not fear me, he said. It was not a question. You are bigger and stronger than me, Danny acknowledged. You could probably kill me before I even moved. But you will not. You are a member of the High Council of a galactic civilization. You did not get here by being stupid or impulsive. This is a test, just like the recordings. You want to see how I react to physical intimidation. The Vrax stared at him for a long moment, then made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. You are correct. It was a test. You passed. He returned to his seat looking genuinely impressed. Cassix's form pulsed with warm golden light. I believe I understand now. You humans are not fearless. I can see the stress in your bodies, the tension in your movements. You are afraid, but you have learned to function despite your fear. You have taught yourselves to think clearly in the presence of terror. This is not bravery. This is something else. Something we do not have a word for. Lara nodded. We call it being human. Our world tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We learned to keep moving anyway. The council members conferred quietly among themselves for several minutes. When they finished, Kasix addressed the humans once more. You are dismissed for now. We have much to discuss, but I want you to know something. In 50,000 years of galactic history, you are the first species to stand before this council and make us feel uncertain. I do not know if that makes you dangerous or valuable or both, but I intend to find out. The humans bowed respectfully and allowed themselves to be escorted from the chamber. As they walked through the endless corridors of the throne world, Grace let out a breath she had been holding. That was intense. Laura laughed softly. It really was. But I think we made an impression. Behind them, the High Council continued their deliberations long into the night. The galaxy had become a little less predictable, and for the first time in millennia, they were not sure how to respond. Station Karth 7 was enormous beyond anything the humans had imagined. It hung in space like a small moon, its surface covered in docking ports, communication arrays, and glowing windows that stretched for miles in every direction. Ships came and went constantly, flowing in and out of the station like blood through a heart. The Wanderer was directed to a small docking bay near the outer edge where vessels of similar size were parked in neat rows. Commander Thrix Von escorted them personally through the station corridors. The halls were wide enough for species of many different sizes to pass each other comfortably. Lavra counted at least 30 different types of aliens during the short walk from the docking bay to the processing center. Some walked on two legs like humans. Others crawled, floated, or moved in ways that defied easy description. A few seemed to be made of light or gas rather than solid matter. The processing center was a large, circular room with dozens of desks arranged in concentric rings. At each desk sat an alien administrator dealing with visitors, traders, and newcomers of all kinds. Thrix Von led them to a desk near the center where a slug-like creature waited with obvious impatience. The creature was about the size of a large dog, with glistening purple skin and eye stalks that swiveled independently to examine each human in turn. Administrator Yeleth, Thrix Von announced. These are the humans I reported. They are a previously unknown species from an uncontacted world. I leave them in your capable appendages. The commander gave the humans one last confused look before departing without another word. Yeleth studied them with her eye stalks for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was surprisingly melodic despite coming from a mouth that looked like a vertical slit in her body. So you are the ones causing all the confusion. Please, sit. We have much to discuss. The humans found seats that were clearly designed for a different body shape, but managed to make themselves comfortable. Yeleth activated a holographic display that floated in the air between them, showing star maps, organizational charts, and scrolling text in a dozen different scripts. Let me explain where you find yourselves, Yeleth began. You have entered the territory of the Volanti hegemony, the dominant political organization in this region of the galaxy. The hegemony consists of over 400 member species spread across roughly 2 million star systems. We have existed in our current form for approximately 50,000 of your Earth years. She paused as if expecting a reaction. The humans listened politely and waited for her to continue. Yeleth's eye stalks drooped slightly. Most species at this point experience what we call existential shock. The realization that their civilization is a tiny speck in a vast galactic community usually causes significant psychological distress. Do you not feel overwhelmed? Danny scratched his head. I mean, it is a lot to take in. But we always figured the universe was bigger than us. This just confirms it. Yeleth made a bubbling sound that might have been a sigh. Very well. Let me continue. The hegemony is governed by a high council consisting of representatives from the 12 oldest and most powerful species. New species like yourselves are typically given probationary status for a period of 100 years during which they are expected to learn our laws, customs, and technologies. That seems reasonable, Lavra said. What kind of laws are we talking about? Yeleth looked at her with what might have been surprise. You want to know about our laws? You do not want to ask about our weapons or our military strength? You do not want to know if we plan to conquer your world. Grace Liu leaned forward with genuine curiosity. Why would we assume you want to conquer us? You have a whole galaxy. What would you want with one more planet? Besides, Tony added, if you wanted to conquer us, you would have done it already. You clearly have the technology. The fact that we are sitting here having a conversation suggests you prefer diplomacy to violence. Yeleth was silent for a full 30 seconds. Her eye stalks waved slowly back and forth in what the humans would later learn was a sign of deep confusion. I have been processing newly discovered species for over 300 years, she finally said. I have seen them weep with terror. I have seen them fall to their knees in worship. I have seen them attack us with primitive weapons and desperate acts of defiance. I have never seen a species simply ask about our legal system as if they were applying for a business license. Megan smiled warmly. We are just practical people, Administrator. We are far from home with limited fuel and no idea where we are. Understanding the rules seems more useful than panicking. Yeleth pulled up another holographic display. Tell me about your species. How long have you been spacefaring? What is your technological level? What is your technological level? What kind of government do you have? Ben Torres answered since navigation and exploration were his specialties. We achieved our first successful spaceflight about 70 years ago. We developed faster than light travel about 8 years ago. Our technology is obviously primitive compared to yours. As for government, we have about 200 different nations on our planet, each with its own system. It is complicated. 200 governments on a single planet? Yeleth seemed genuinely shocked. How do you accomplish anything? Slowly, Lavra admitted. But we manage. Yeleth made another bubbling sigh and began entering data into her console. I need to understand something. Commander Thrix Vaughn reported that your reaction to first contact was abnormal. I have reviewed his recordings and I agree. But I cannot determine why you are so calm. Explain this to me. Lavra thought for a moment before answering. Our species has been telling stories about meeting aliens for a very long time. We have books, films, and other media depicting every possible scenario. First contact is something we have imagined in great detail. When it actually happened, it felt familiar somehow, like we had practiced for it without knowing. Yeleth accessed something on her console, and her eye stalks suddenly extended to their full length. I am looking at your cultural database now. There are thousands of fictional works about extraterrestrial contact. Tens of thousands. Your species has been obsessively imagining this moment for generations. That sounds about right, Danny confirmed. You have essentially been training yourselves to handle this psychologically, Yeleth said slowly. You have run countless mental simulations of galactic civilization through your entertainment media. By the time you actually encountered us, you had already processed the concept so thoroughly that reality was less shocking than fiction. Grace nodded. I never thought of it that way, but yes, I think that is accurate. Yeleth was quiet for a long time. Her eye stalks slowly retracted as she seemed to reach some kind of conclusion. I am going to file a special report with the High Council. Your species is not normal. I do not mean this as an insult. I mean that in 50,000 years of galactic civilization, we have never encountered a species that prepared itself. psychologically, for first contact before knowing contact was possible. You are an anomaly. The Council will want to examine you personally. Lavra exchanged glances with her crew. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I genuinely do not know, Yeleth admitted. But I suspect the galaxy is about to become much more interesting. She handed Lavra a small device that pulsed with soft blue light. This is a temporary identification marker. It will allow you to move freely within the station while we arrange transport to the Council throne world. Do not cause trouble. Do not start any wars. And please, try not to confuse anyone else. My colleagues are not as patient as I am. The humans thanked her and stood to leave. As they walked toward the exit, Yeleth called out one more question. What do you call yourselves? Your species, I mean. Lavra turned back. We call ourselves humans. Or humanity. Either works. Yeleth made a note. Humans. I suspect we will be hearing that name a great deal in the coming years. The humans left the processing center and stepped out into the vast corridors of Station Chorus 7. Alien. Life surrounded them on all sides. The galaxy had suddenly become much larger and much stranger than they had ever known. But somehow, impossibly, it all felt almost normal. Tony stretched his arms above his head and yawned. So what do we do now? Lavra looked around at the impossible wonder of it all and smiled. Now, we explore. That is what we came out here to do. The alarm screamed through the narrow corridors of the Wanderer as the ship dropped out of hyperspace in completely the wrong location. Captain Laura Kim gripped her command chair and watched the view screen flicker from the swirling colors of faster-than-light, travel to the blackness of normal space. But this blackness was not empty. It was filled with ships. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. Vessels of every shape and size moved through the void in organized patterns like fish, swimming through a cosmic ocean. Danny Marsh, the first officer, leaned forward in his seat and let out a low whistle. The ships ranged from small craft, no bigger than their own vessel, to massive structures that could have swallowed entire cities. Some were sleek and elegant with smooth curves that caught the distant starlight. Others were brutal and angular, like floating fortresses bristling with weapons. A few defied description, entirely with shapes that seemed to twist and fold in ways that hurt the eyes. Navigation error, Ben Torres reported from his station. His voice was calm despite the impossible sight before them. We overshot our target coordinates by about 600 light years. Looks like we dropped into some kind of shipping lane. Lavra nodded and studied the view screen. Her crew had trained for years to handle unexpected situations. They had run countless simulations of first contact scenarios. Every member of the Wanderer team had been selected for psychological stability and adaptability. This moment was exactly what they had prepared for, even if they had not expected it to happen quite so soon. Megan, open all standard hailing frequencies, Lavra said. Let them know we come in peace and all that. Megan Price, the communications officer, worked her console with practiced efficiency. Broadcasting now, Captain. Universal greeting package on all frequencies. The response came faster than anyone expected. One of the larger warships broke formation and moved toward them with alarming speed. It was an insectoid design with multiple segmented sections connected by flexible joints. The hull was dark purple and covered in what looked like armored plates. Weapon ports lined its sides like the eyes of a spider. They are hailing us, Megan announced. Audio and visual. Should I put it through? Lavra straightened her uniform and ran a hand through her short black hair. Do it. The view screen shifted to show the interior of the alien vessel. The being that appeared was tall and thin with a segmented body covered in chitinous plates. It had 4 arms and a head that resembled a praying mantis with large compound eyes that reflected the light in rainbow patterns. When it spoke, its mandibles clicked and clattered. But a translation came through almost immediately in a mechanical voice. Unknown vessel. You have entered Volanti hegemony space without authorization. Identify yourselves immediately or be destroyed. Lara stood and faced the screen directly. I am Captain Lara Kim of the Earth vessel Wanderer. We are explorers from a planet called Earth. We arrived here by accident due to a navigation error. We mean no harm and request assistance. The alien's compound eyes seemed to narrow somehow. It turned to speak with others off-screen in a series of clicks and hisses that the translators struggled to interpret. When it faced them again, its tone had changed from threatening to something closer to confusion. You claim to be from a planet called Earth. Our records show no species by that designation in the Galactic database. You are either lying or you are a newly discovered civilization. Which is it? Danny leaned over to Laura and spoke quietly. I think we just made first contact with an actual alien empire. Looks that way, Laura agreed. She addressed the alien again. We are indeed a newly spacefaring civilization. This is our first journey beyond our home system. We did not know that other intelligent life existed in the galaxy until approximately 2 minutes ago. The alien commander stared at them for a long moment. Its mandibles clicked rapidly in what might have been surprise or agitation. You expect me to believe that you have just discovered that the galaxy is inhabited by thousands of civilizations, and your response is to calmly ask for assistance? Laura shrugged. What else would we do? Panic seems counterproductive. We need fuel and directions. Can you help us or not? The alien turned away from the screen again and engaged in a heated discussion with its crew. Laura could hear fragments of the translated conversation. Words like impossible and deranged and must be some kind of trick came through clearly. Tony Reeves, the chief engineer, walked onto the bridge from the corridor behind them. He was a stocky man with graying hair and oil stains on his uniform that never seemed to wash out completely. What did I miss? The alarms woke me up from a very nice nap. We found aliens, Grace Liu told him from her medical station. Lots of them. Apparently, there is a whole galactic empire out here. Tony looked at the screen where the insectoid alien was still arguing with its crew. He nodded slowly and scratched his chin. Huh, makes sense, I guess. Galaxy is pretty big. You need me for anything, or can I go back to sleep? The alien commander whipped back around to face them. Did your crew member just ask if he could go back to sleep? We have just informed you that you are surrounded by an ancient galactic civilization with technology far beyond your own. We could destroy your vessel with a single shot. Does this not concern you? Danny shrugged. Should it? You seem like reasonable people. Or reasonable beings, I guess. You have not shot us yet, so I figure you are probably not going to. Besides, we have been expecting something like this for a long time. Expecting it? The alien's voice rose in pitch. How could you possibly expect this? You admitted you did not know we existed. Larva smiled patiently. We did not know you specifically existed, but we always figured someone was out there. Our planet has been telling stories about aliens for hundreds of years. We have imagined every possible scenario. Peaceful contact, hostile invasion, ancient civilizations, young ones, humanoid species, non-humanoid species. We have thought about all of it. Finding out we were right is actually kind of nice. The alien commander was silent for nearly a minute. When it spoke again, its tone was completely different. The aggression was gone and replaced by something that sounded almost like uncertainty. I am Commander Thrix Vaughn of the hegemony warship Kesseth. I will escort you to Station Korath 7 for processing. You will follow my vessel and make no hostile moves. But I must inform you that your reaction to this situation is highly abnormal. Every species we have ever encountered has responded to first contact with fear, worship, or violence. Your casual acceptance disturbs me greatly. Lavra gestured to Megan to mute the transmission for a moment. She turned to her crew with a slight grin. I think we confused them. Danny laughed. Good. Confused is better than hostile. Lavra unmuted the channel. Commander Thrixvan, we appreciate your assistance. We will follow your ship to the station. And for what it is worth, you seem like a very professional officer. We are glad our first alien contact is with someone competent. Thrixvan stared at them for another long moment before cutting the transmission without another word. The purple warship turned and began moving away at a steady pace. Lavra ordered Ben to follow at a safe distance as the Wanderer fell into formation behind the alien vessel. Grace looked up from her medical readouts. Captain, I am reading elevated stress hormones in everyone on the bridge. We are all terrified, you know. We are just hiding it well. Lara nodded. That is the human way. Scream on the inside, smile on the outside. Now let us go see what this galactic empire is all about. The Wanderer followed the Kesseth deeper into the crowded shipping lane. Around them, alien vessels of 100 different designs continued their journeys, paying little attention to the small Earthship that had just stumbled into their ancient civilization. Somewhere in the back of her mind, Laura wondered what they were getting themselves into. But another part of her, the part that had dreamed of the stars since childhood, was simply excited to find out.